Let's move on to Patrick Moreau now. He says, I loved the Slaves and Masters album you did with Deep Purple. I saw the tour with Winger opening up for you. Were you disappointed not to do the follow-up record?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you liking the Slaves and Masters. So do I. And I think Ritchie even mentioned it's one of his favorite Deep Purple albums. Was I disappointed? Yes, in a way, because I knew I was an interim singer. I think Ian Pace had a great statement in the press one time that I've read. And he said, Joe was kind of the glue that held Purple together in order to go from this point to this point. And without that album and without Joe being there, Ritchie would have taken off and done something else. And they never would have had that reunion with Gillan. Plus, I knew that there was something in the works with BMG trying to reunite Gillan for a large sum of money. And money talks, nobody walks. And I understood that. But we did work on the second album, which was The Battle Rages On for them. And I do have some cassettes with me vocalizing over these tracks and so on. In fact, I did a song that I called Stroke of Midnight that I co-wrote lyrics and melodies with Jim Pitterick from Survivor.
Oh, yeah.
And Blackmore's bluesy track. And they called it One Man's Meat. And we called it, okay? And the story is that Blackmore would play this on the PA, and I have this good information. He would play this on the PA before a performance because he was pissed at Gillan. So you know how Ritchie is. He just likes to, and he would play my version of the song. Hysterical, really, but it's typical Blackmore, So, yeah, disappointed, but not really unexpected. You know what I mean? It wasn't. Yeah. I didn't expect to. When we started working on that second album, I was like, well, I guess, okay, we'll work on it. But then the call came in, and they made the deal with BMG, and I was shown the door and said, look, we're reuniting with Gillan, and it seems that the older the album gets, the more people like it. Yeah. It's strange, because at first you got a lot of backlash with the hardcore promoters on any of this. It's a Deep Rainbow record, and it's this and it's that. Meanwhile, Deep Purple had so many, throughout years. It should be called that this was another incarnation, So anyway, I think there's some great songs on it, and it stands on its own merit. And Ritchie wasn't so difficult. He was, and him not adoring you, you have to understand he has a reason. And if you have the sense enough to talk it out and say, well, we work together on that. Yeah. He did the same thing with the tracks too.
Yeah.
We need this guitar part over, step over, let's back here and do this. Right. Yeah. See what you mean. There you go. Now you've got a teamwork happening. So that's not difficult. That's just, you want, what's right, what's perfect. And that's what he is. He's more of a perfectionist than difficult. I mean, hey, he's a prankster. He's very funny. He's got a dark humor, and once you kind of grasp that and you can turn some things against, around at him, he enjoys that. He likes when you play the tricks on him as well.
All right.
So, he could take it as much as dish it out. So he was easy to work with, in my opinion, because he'd always come up to me after listening to a track and say, that's right. You did it. That's right. Right there. You're spot on. Like when I did the Street of Dreams track, the vocal, he couldn't play the lead at one point. He went into the studio and I was sitting in the lounge, and he said, he comes into the lounge and says, I just can't get it. And I said, what? He goes, I can't play a solo. And I said, what's wrong? He says, your vocal is intimidating. And I said, intimidating? He says, it's a fantastic emotional vocal. And I said, so this is what we want. I said, go in and play a fantastic emotional lead, Okay, let's go have a beer. Cracked open a couple of beers, talked about it, lit a few candles, went back in the studio, and he played a solo that I still can sing to this day. Melodic, beautiful composition, perfect for the arrangement. Bam. That's not difficulty. That's just teamwork.
Fantastic stuff. And I've got a question here from G. Varner, who says, how did you first meet Ritchie Blackmore?
First of all, I've always been a big fan, say so to speak, of his guitar playing.
Yeah.
When I'm playing guitar and practicing, I'm always doing a Ritchie Blackmore lick. Okay, I always took him as like my number one guitar player. And then I got a call from him in New York. I was living in New York and looking for a band because my band Fandango had broken up off of RCA Records and the whole thing. And here I am just slinging the guitar, walking around trying to get auditions and whatnot. And I got a phone call, and it was Colin Hart, our tour manager. And he says, "You want to come and audition?" Took a train to Long Island. They picked me up, walked into the studio, spoke about 10 minutes to Ritchie and Roger. And they said, "Get in there, get on the mic and start singing." They threw a few tracks at me. They started nodding their head. They pushed the button and said, "Do you write?" I said, "Oh, yeah." So I picked up my writing bag, which I always bring with me, all my yellow notebooks and things, and started to improvise over different tracks. They liked that. Came in with a beer and said, "Here, you're in the band if you want it." And that was it. That's how I met him.
Wow.
Just like that.
So how did Colin Hart hear of you? Or how did the band hear of you? Did you support them at any point, or did you just come across your Fandango before?
Don, Airy, and Cozy.
Ah.
They went to a club apparently in Long Island, and Fandango was playing one of his last gigs. This is the story I heard through very good sources. And they were impressed. They went back to Ritchie and said, "I don't know, this guy's got something," and blah, blah, blah. So Ritchie listened to a few of the records, and Fandango, of course, was nothing like Rainbow. You know, it was much more of an Eagle-y type band, that type of music. But he took a chance on the tone of the voice and the phrasing and things like that. So I went for the audition, and that's how I got in the band, through Cozy and Don.
There
No,
you go.
wait, I think there's a rumor that he actually came out and saw a show too, but he stood in the shadows. I don't know, but that's very possible.